Hi, Stuart here. Just a very quick apology for the quality of the sound. There's quite a bit of reverb on Brad's feed. Hopefully the Gremlins will be out of the system next week. Otherwise, I'll be round there to have a word with him in inverted commas. Anyway, enjoy the podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Mental Health Gaming Podcast. Once again, I am Bradley and I'm joined by someone who went to a mysterious Chinese bazaar and came back with something that can only be described as a mogwai. I'm sure nothing bad will happen. How you doing, Stu?
Not too bad. I've deliberately not been feeding them after midnight, but I am planning to give him a little bath later on, clean up his fur and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, you need to keep them clean.
Can't see any problems. Yeah,
no,
be fine.
No, not at all. What time zone are you going to feed them?
Yeah, What? How did they know what time it was? There's some sophisticated biology going on there. I'd love to see a new Gremlins film that had kind of like explain the magic behind it and stuff. That would be really cool.
Oh, some guy. It was the 80s and we was on a lot of cocaine.
Yeah, that's the real world explanation, without a doubt.
Yeah, it's a cocaine fever dream.
Pretty much.
Something else that's a cocaine fever dream at times is video games.
Segue.
That's my worst segue yet.
That's pretty bad.
But go on. What have you been playing, Stu?
Well, I have been playing something that is quite far away from the concept of cocaine and recreational drugs. I'm more towards a psychotropic, which is Io the Clown, or AO the Clown, not sure how it's pronounced.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So, clowns are very strange, they're really, really strange. It's kind of like...
evil.
You go, okay, why do they still exist now, that people are mostly afraid of them? I'm not, but I don't find them inherently entertaining. It's really strange.
I don't like clowns. I'm scared of clowns.
Yeah, well, there you go. You see, loads of people are. But so anyway, it's a platform game, and it is Mario. So I'm not even saying it's like Mario. It basically is Mario. Well,
are we on about Great Giada Sisters?
We pretty much are.
Levels,
very much so. Yeah, that with a mix of Yoshi as well. So it's got the pace of Yoshi, so it's a bit slower, and there's more verticality because you can float, and
we all float down here.
Yeah, see, clowns, nice. Now you see, if you can bring that segue game into the rest of the podcast, we'll be laughing. Yeah. So yes, you're playing Pennywise, and you're terrifying children. Now, so you kind of bounce on stuff on their heads. You float in the sky, and you traverse platforms, some of which are on little those kind of wires, like from Mario World, where the platforms go around on the wires and then drop off the end, and it's just such a gigantic rip-off. It's unbelievable. But that doesn't stop it being quite a good game. It's actually very, very enjoyable. And one of the main things is it gets the fundamentals right. So the frame rate is excellent. I know that's not a huge thing, but when you're talking particularly about Nintendo, well, you're talking about games on Nintendo consoles and comparing them with Nintendo's own stuff, they always get that flawless. So it looks smooth, it's clean and clear, the graphics are great, and this Io the Clown brings it, really. I mean, it hasn't got the level of sort of sophistication and polish that a Mario Odyssey would have, or Yoshi, but what does? But it's great. It flows smoothly. The character models are decent. It's fun. It's bright and clear. It's got nice bloom effects and some bokeh kind of that faded background sort of blurriness. And overall, it does a really good job of looking pretty and playing well. And I've been enjoying it so far.
Yeah, I'm just looking. I'm braving some screenshots of it. I'm not brave enough to look at videos yet. And Jesus Christ, Io the Clown is terrifying. I don't think it's the eyes. He's got like puppy dog eyes. And
yes,
no, that's not natural. Oh, I actually prefer like Pennywise design, because at least you can get that it's evil. That no, oh, don't like
Yeah,
that. But
yeah,
yeah, visually, I can see where you're coming from. It's definitely got a feel with like Yoshi's Crafted World type stuff, or Woolly World, or something like that to it. With a bit
yeah,
of Little Big Planet, maybe.
yeah, a little bit. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But yeah, no, I mean, as long as it plays well, you often hear people bemoan something. Oh, it's just copying Mario. And it's like that's fine. I'm okay with that. As long as you're not just doing an asset flip on a Mario game
yeah.
and you're just heavily, heavily inspired by it, I'm absolutely fine with that.
Well, yeah, because I mean, a lot of people want more of something that's really good, and if you're waiting around for Nintendo to do it, you're waiting several years at best, sometimes decades. So why not more of it? And with this one, I mean, how many games are there that are copies of the modern sort of 2D scrolling Marios? There don't seem to be very many of them around. I mean, I know Rayman is sort of held up at it, but it kind of plays quite differently. I haven't played a Rayman for many years, but I wouldn't compare it directly to the sort of 2D scrolling Mario games. I don't know.
No, I would say the Rayman games are completely different to Mario, just because they're 2D. I think that's the only bit you can compare, especially the modern Rayman games. Which I don't want to praise anything Ubisoft on the show, especially bearing in mind what we'll be talking about later. But the modern Rayman games are exemplary of how you can do 2D platforms and not just be a Mario.
Yeah, yeah.
But at the same time, if you don't own a Nintendo system, you don't have a Mario game. So if you've got something that can go multi-plat, if it's even 70% as good as a Mario game, then you're onto a winner.
Yeah, yeah. No, precisely. So yeah, I'm quite gently impressed so far with it. Happy playing it.
Excellent. I won't try it.
No, it's probably for the best. It's got that. Yeah,
could be the best game ever made. I'm not playing it.
No. Well, I mean, you could do that kind of. It's got that kind of uncanny valley thing, which is what people are afraid of for clowns, isn't it? Because it gets close to looking like completely human, but not. And then the proportions are different and wrong. And yeah, you'd think that, it could exaggerate the stuff that is less terrifying. I mean, I don't find it terrifying, but it could do with like not having the white face, or I don't know, changing it up in some way, putting some like little details like stars or whatever on his face to make it kind of less threatening, and bigger, more rounded eyes to make it very
they could also just
toy-like.
Stop eating children.
Well, there is that as well. Yeah, that is terrifying.
I mean, the main reason I'm terrified of clowns, I'm sure I've told this story before, so I'll do an abridged version, is when I was a lot younger, and the original Stephen King's with Tim Curry as Pennywise, when that was put on, it was like a two-parter on the BBC, I think, because it was originally done as a mini-series rather than a straight-up film, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was on the BBC, and I remember watching it with my mum, and we sat in the living room watching it, and in those days, you couldn't pause the TV. That's ridiculous. So I had to run up and go to the toilet. And my mum had loads of little porcelain clowns she used to collect. So I never used to have a problem with them. But I went up to go to the toilet, and I was young at the time. I came back down, and one of these porcelain clowns had ended up on my chair, where I was sitting, and I absolutely shit myself. And from that day, I was terrified of clowns. Even as an adult, I do not like them. They make me feel so stupidly uncomfortable.
Did your mum or whatever do that as a joke?
Yeah.
Oh, that's mean.
My mum's always been doing stuff like that to me. Not. I mean, again, I get that it's funny and stuff like that. She's not like being an abusive parent or anything like that, but she has quite a dark sense of humour.
Oh, that's a baller move. That is. That's really.
Well, she once like, I think. I mean, I used to have I didn't like Lewis Hamilton, because he was the new kid on the scene, and he wasn't Michael Schumacher. And I made when you're younger, you go, well, I really don't like this person. You sort of like a bit more bravado about it. I done that, and I was quite clear on how much I didn't like him. So she bought me Lewis Hamilton's autobiography for Christmas.
Oh, nasty.
When I done my ankle ligaments in when I was younger, she bought me a skateboard.
I like your mum.
Yeah, no, I do. I think she's all right. But no, she has got quite a dark, like an edgy sense of humour with stuff like that. But yeah, she's the reason I don't like clowns.
Fair play. The only other thing to say at the moment is what's the strangest thing is that it's like it's a kids game, so there's lots of like kiddie based stuff, fluffy clouds and some of it on a cute farmyard, and there's cute farmyard animals and all that. But like, why pick a clown and then not have stuff like, and these might appear, but I haven't seen them yet. I've not seen like a clown car. I've not seen like a seltzer bottle gag. I've not seen like the honk thingies. I'm not seen like a squirty tie. I've not seen any of the things in the game that make a clown. Like, the only one there is when you go to a checkpoint, this little scarecrowy type thing pushes a cream pie in your face. And that is a clown thing.
The dead children floating in.
Yeah. There's all the dead kids, obviously, because they all float down there. But yeah, no, it's weird.
I wonder if it's a case of, I don't know. Someone liked the design that someone drew. I don't know, but
yeah, there's balloons. Yeah, there's balloons, but and a pie in the face. But yeah, none of the other stuff. So if that doesn't appear, I'm going to mark it down by at least 5 points, definitely.
in our marking system that we
don't use. Yeah,
fair enough. Anyway, enough clowning around.
Oh, nice.
We'll go to something else that's pretty terrifying, actually. Bit lighter than clowns as well. Chernobyl.
Oh.
I've been playing a game called Chernobylite, which is a first-person RPG survival. I suppose it's an adventure, but I see it more of a survival horror.
Right.
It's very hard to know sort of where to put this game. It takes a lot of influence from the likes of Stalker. That's there from Metro and games like that. And basically, it's post-apocalyptic Chernobyl. You kind of get flashbacks as your character. I believe you was working in like the reactor and stuff like that when it went up. But now you're part of this group that's in the exclusion zone. And you've got this storyline to follow, and there's these remnants of your dead partner, girlfriend, wife, whatever she is. I'm not quite sure yet. In your ear, telling you, "Oh, this is bad," or "Don't do this," or "Go and do this." Kind of like really spooky and things like that.
Yeah,
and it's atmosphere-wise, it is absolutely dripping in it. They've made a big deal out of, and I don't know how they managed to do this, but it's the most realistic 3D scanned version of Chernobyl's exclusion zone ever committed to digital media.
Wow.
So you notice it. You start off in the game and you're in this train carriage, and then you wake up and look, it's post-apocalyptic. You have to go through the woods and stuff like that, and you feel lost. You go through the woods. First thing I've done was in the woods, and I felt lost. You ever done that? Do you know when you've gone into deep woods and like you lose your bearings?
Yeah.
Video games don't often do that in a natural way. It does it in weird ways. But Chernobyl, I'm in there and I felt lost, and I got panicky. Headphones on, it was like fairly dark out as well, so I'm playing, and I got lost in the woods, and I started feeling myself getting panicky. It's like, Jesus Christ, this game, it's got atmosphere, it knows atmosphere.
Yeah.
And I mean, on that alone, it's just absolutely wonderful. It's still in early access, I think, but yeah, on that side of it, it's really, really amazing. But yeah, it is an RPG, and there's like you level up certain bits, and there's crafting mechanics, and it's a non-linear story, and it's got stealth in it, but in a really natural way. It's not like Metal Gear Solid stealth. It's kind of thrown loads of different elements. So we spoke about this last week with another game where games throw loads of different elements and it doesn't quite work. With this, it works. They've thrown the elements in it, but it builds to it in a really nice way. So it introduces different elements at the right time and does it in a natural way with the story. There's like supernatural elements to it as well. And the first time you're given a weapon, these things start coming out the ground. I mean, almost soul-like, I suppose. But they start coming out the ground. And I started shooting them in a blind panic. I didn't know what to do. There's no sort of explanation for, it's going to happen. It kind of flashes in. You've got a gun during this like flashing and these things are coming at you. You just start shooting in a blind panic. It's got that element throughout all of it. And you feel like you are having to survive, but not in that way where it goes, oh, look, you've not eaten something for 5 minutes. You're now going to get hungry.
Right.
You feel like in the exclusion zone, you're at the mercy of the elements. You're at the mercy of what could be around the exclusion zone from like all like the stories and that you might hear from people and how haunted it is and things like that. And yeah, one of the things I've noticed, you do get to make a few choices in the game as well. And again, this is where I think Mass Effect is looking old now based on stuff like this. You make decisions and choices within the game and it really seems to change the flow of what the game's doing. Not in a way I can go, oh, this is obvious, but in a way that I've made a decision and then it feels like it's had an effect. There's nothing on screen going, so-and-so will remember this, or so-and-so might react like this. You just get a natural thing happen.
Yeah.
And there's one like very early on where you had to make a decision of like you're trying to break into somewhere and it's a very minor thing. And you go, right, you can either pretend you are an engineer who's meant to be there, or you can get one of your party to like take out the person who's questioning you, who's like caught you like on your way in. And I chose to have him executed because, I don't trust anything in the exclusion zone in Chernobyl. Screw that for a last. Some shadowy creatures tried to murder me. So, and they kind of murder this guy. And the way they are with you before you get there, you only got a brief moment with them. The way they are with you before you go in to how they are with you after is very different. They kind of almost mock you that you're not able to deal with things. And so I did go back and I restarted. It's only a very short while into the game. I then restarted it and in the end tried to pretend to be someone else. And the same thing happened. And he sort of like, he went, no, you are not this person. And they come in and they take him out. And then you carry on. But their way they speak to you is different. And the way they then went into the next bit of the game was slightly different in their attitude and everything to how it was before.
Right.
And it's just these little things that are going on. And this is only a Polish indie team that are making this. It's nothing major. But yeah, it's just the atmosphere, the storytelling, the characterization that's going on in there, the trump everything. So I mean, I don't want to go into detail about the story itself. I don't want to go into detail about the crafting mechanics and the way it branches off and the survival mechanics and the base building that's in there, because they're all fine, but they could be crap because the atmosphere and this choices matter mechanic they got just trump absolutely everything else.
Well, that's really impressive, yeah, especially from a small team.
Yeah,
and also it's kind of an area that, for me, it feels like it's a little bit underutilized. So I know there are a fair few of these survival type things around, but there aren't very many that are blending it well with the horror. And I'm kind of on the fence about like Resident Evil, which is the one that I'd say is pushing. It's not very survivally, but it's pushing that envelope the hardest, I guess. Where it's it's a first person game and it's got survival elements, but I haven't really kind of clicked with them very much. But this sounds like it's got enough of like the fear factor to make it quite unique.
Yeah, and I've not had a jump scare yet. So when I say I'm scared, I'm scared in places, it's tension. It's not even the bit where them soul shadowy things come out the ground. There's only two or three of them that I see at this point early on.
Yeah.
And it's like over in about 15 seconds. But it's not a jump scare. You kind of get there. You got a gun. You realise you got a gun. Go, crap. Why have I got a flashback and all of a sudden got a gun? And then you see it coming out of the ground. It's like, oh my! It's not that. But you're like, oh, right. This is why I've got my gun. Okay. There's that one. There's that one. Shoot, 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 shoot. I've got. And then it goes back to normal out of the flashback where you were standing before you went into like this flash. Well, I'll say it might not be a flashback. It might be an alternate reality. I don't know yet. And it's just like. Just my heart afterwards going boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, whoa, okay, I need to take a second, but I'm scared. Can I take a second? I don't know if I can take a second because what if that happens again? It's got that element to it, and it blends what you're doing with some supernatural elements. Is this actually happening? Am I safe? And I'm not safe. Oh, and it's got a brilliant. The one thing Metro done really well was you could play it with Russian voice acting and English subtitles, which I think adds to the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Same with this. Russian acting and voiceovers, but you can switch it to English if you want. But I was like, no, thank you very much. I will take the Russian voices, please, because it just adds to the atmosphere rather than sounding comedic when you do English Russian accents.
Absolutely.
I've not. Again, I'm only a good, as I say, maybe 3-4 hours into it so far, but it's gripped me. I'm going to be playing this long term. I don't know when it actually comes out, but it is early access at the moment. And apparently this has actually been around since like 2019, but I got it. So it must be coming up for release. It might be hitting full release very, very soon, but it's been in early access since October 2019. This is my first exposure to it. And superb.
Nice one. Yeah, that sounds really good. I'll keep my eye on
it. It actually says on their Steam page, actually, I just had a look. Full blown, 28th for the 7th, 2021. So as of listening, you can get this properly.
Full release. Excellent.
Yes.
Yeah, put that on the wish list.
Yes, definitely. Don't know how much it is. Let's have a look on my notes. £24. I've played games that are twice that are nowhere near as good as this.
Cool. Yeah. Nice when one of those leaps out of the ground at you.
Yes. So, out of the exclusion zone, what have you been? Anything else?
I've only been playing, I say only, in inverted commas, but I've been playing Grandia still and really loving it. So, we've talked about it a few times now on the podcast. So it's an RPG on the Saturn. I'm playing a full conversion into English of it. There was never an English version of it released. It's the Saturn game, but it takes the dialogue from the PlayStation version. By all accounts, the PlayStation version wasn't as good in terms of some of the graphics and the music. So it stitches them together to make the kind of quote-unquote ultimate edition of Grandia that you can play. And it's really great. What really strikes me is the story is fantastic. So it's not very combat heavy, but it's a really, really unusual story that zips around, and it has a very kind of light child adventure sort of focus. So instead of it feeling very heavy, it feels very kind of like, sort of wistful and kind and gentle and about the protagonist's feelings and stuff and his relationships. So it's kind of like, I don't know what you'd compare it to. The old stuff like, Peter Pan, Swallows and Amazons, that sort of thing, really. In that it's, it's aimed at kids but without patronising them, and very much enjoyable by adults. And I love the graphics. Now, obviously, it's the Saturn, so it's not beautiful, because it very rarely did beautiful looking games. But it's got a really lovely, charming style that has aged very, very well, aged very gracefully, which doesn't hurt at all. And the artwork is very clever and nicely done, beautifully coloured. The Saturn had such a much better colour palette than the PlayStation. And I'm not just dumping on the PS1. I loved that console, really did. But it had a much more vibrant colour palette than the PS1, just like the Dreamcast did over the PS2. So it's just a lovely experience so far. And I'm 5 hours in on the clock, but I had some technical issues and lost some time. So it's a bit more than that, probably nearer to 8 or 10. But I'm in for the long haul now and just genuinely really enjoying it.
Excellent. Yeah, again, it's it's one of those games that I've dabbled in, or I definitely dabbled in a Grandia game. Couldn't tell you which one or anything like that, or on what system. And it's one of those RPGs that's just not for me.
Yeah.
I just can't get on with it. But at the same time, I look at it and it's one of those games, one of those series that I've always gone, I want to play it. And then have to talk myself out of it because I know I just won't get what I'm meant to get from it. But yeah, I'm glad it's got its audience for sure.
Yes, yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. It's the stuff that you're like, right, I'm buying that, and then if you think about it for 5 minutes, you're like, no, don't do it. You know you're not going to enjoy it. Doesn't matter how good it is, it's not for you. So yeah, no, and I wasn't sure with this. I wasn't sure whether it was going to sit well with me or not. So it was still a bit of a surprise, because I didn't have any bias one way or another going in. Cost me nothing because it's a ROM. I might look at buying the. I think there's like a remaster available. I might look at buying that so that somebody can get some money for it. Although it would never go towards the original dev team because they'll be long gone. It's 25 years old. I certainly don't have any guilt around playing it as a ROM, basically. But yeah, no, it really clicked, and that's kind of rare, especially with older stuff that doesn't necessarily, like, RPGs have quality of life improvements, but this by and large does a really good job of it. So yeah,
excellent. No, I say I would love to play it. I just can't. Well, I can, but I just won't enjoy it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so moving on, I've been playing. I'll get to my two bigger ones in a bit, but I've been playing a smaller title that again, it just shows why games are fantastic, especially in the indie scene, because this has given me as much pleasure as anything else I've played of late, and it's called Mini Motorways. You aware of the game Mini Metro?
Yeah, we talked about it on here a long time ago, like right near when we started, I think. And I looked it up, and it looks gorgeous. So I'm guessing this one does as well.
Yeah. So what this is, it's so what you've got here is basically a minimalistic city builder that's based around traffic management and traffic management only. So it's more of a puzzle game. It's puzzle stroke city building strategy simulation type stuff. And the simplicity of it is basically you get given what would be a house, and then a destination that the house has got to get to. So you'd have a yellow house and you've got a yellow destination, which would be like a square place, might be like an office. A round one might be like a retail park or something like that. That's what they're meant to represent.
Yeah.
And you draw the road from house to retail park or office or whatever. So from start to destination. And then another one pops up. It might be a different colour. You've got to draw a road. And basically the idea is you've got to be able to get all the traffic from start point to destination without it all clogging up and stuff like that. And it expands and gets wider and wider as you go and becomes more and more difficult. So you have to choose. So you've got, instead of choosing straight roads, you can then start to use roundabouts, traffic lights to manage it. And then eventually, you can add bridges to get over water. Or you can then add a motorway, which cuts out, almost bypasses everything. And it's basically, it's really like minimalistic, but it really gets really intense. So you start off and it's really slow and casual and relaxing, and then the further you go, the more intense it gets. You're pausing it, you're having to readjust roads and rebuild roads, and can I put a roundabout there to help maintain this? Oh no, that's not working. Can I do traffic lights? Can I bypass this? All the meantime, going, right, you've now got after every week passes, you get, right, you can either have traffic lights and 20 road tiles, or you can have a motorway and 20 road tiles, or maybe you might say you can have a bridge and 10 road tiles, or even 30 road tiles on its own, stuff like that. So you get different choices at the end of each week at what you want to progress. And you've got to think your strategy is, right, when do I need a bridge? Do I need a bridge now, or am I wasting it when I could take a roundabout or a traffic light? And if you don't take a bridge, you can almost be sod's law that there'll be something placed over a river. You're like, crying out loud. And it's strategy. You've got all these different real world locations, like, so it'll give you like Tokyo, Munich, Beijing, and a few other places. And yeah, basically the idea is to basically keep traffic flowing as long as you possibly can. And then when it builds up too much and you can't fulfill a destination properly, game over. And then you go again. Just a superb puzzle strategy game. And I absolutely adore it. But a big shout out to in your face accessibility modes. I nearly called it out for this guy. It doesn't, I can't play because it's too bright. Well, I actually missed the front and center dark mode. You go into it. First thing you go is, switch to dark mode. There you go. Now you can see. And there's colorblind options and all different kinds of things. So even as little as you can either keep your tools bar on the screen at all time or have it disappear, which seems like a minor thing, but someone with ADHD, if that toolbar disappears, I forget about it.
Right.
At times, which is really weird to think about, seeing as you need to access it. But having it that you can put it there is great. You can toggle whether you use the right click for deleting paths, or you can just go a toggle button, so it's just the same click for drawing and deleting. Loads of little accessibility options, really, really good. It's only a small title. It's only a few quid, I believe. It's like £7, something like that. Absolutely brilliant. And I loved Mini Metro, and this is an absolute donking sequel to that.
Yes, I'm looking at it now. In my notes, I took a sketch from, no, I'm YouTubing it. And it's great. It looks like a piece of industrial design or like a marketing brochure, like a marketing presentation sort of thing. I mean that in the nicest possible way, as a real compliment. So I've worked for corporations that spend huge amounts of money on their marketing, and this kind of matches that style, which means that's really impressive. And to do that plus also have all those accessibility options, that's just fantastic. I'm genuinely really impressed. It looks great. I really want to give it a go, but I have a funny thing with these. It's like a really strange one. So I quite like sort of strategy games as long as they're quite simply presented like this. Mm-hmm. The best way for me to play them would be on like my laptop.
Yeah.
And most of the time it's not powerful at all, but it's powerful enough to play fairly, not graphically intensive games. However, I have one major barrier to this, and that's that when I'm sitting on the sofa with my laptop on my little kind of meal tray / laptop table thing, one of my cats finds it absolutely fascinating, and she won't stop jumping up and just basically walking all over it in front of my face. So I have a whole set of gaming stuff that I can't do because my cat will just completely interrupt it.
Yeah, so with this, to be honest with you, I don't know if I could play this on a laptop with the trackpad. Personally, I think it's a mouse game or a touchscreen game for me.
Well, luckily, I often use my mouse with it, and also it has touchscreen. But yeah, no, it's the cat that's the problem. So I think I'll have to get rid of the cat. But no, I think
I'll see if your cat's a better city planner than you.
Probably is, actually. It's definitely more intelligent than I am. But I think again, Steam Deck, that's something that will be great for this because it has touchpads. I know they're only trackpads, but I'm thinking that this might be one that will suit that down to the ground. Yeah, hopefully.
I've not tried this. It's got full controller support. I mean, because Mini Metro was out on everything, so I had it on the Vita, PlayStation, Xbox, PC, iPhone, Android, my toaster, the back of some bloke's head with a tattoo. Everywhere I had this game. The original in Mini Metro. So, and it worked really well on the Vita, and on console. So controller support, I've not tried it because I prefer it with a mouse. But so you might get away with doing good controller support with it.
Cool. Yeah. No, it's one of those that I hope it really reaches a big audience. So I'm taking it that Mini Metro did really well.
I don't know, because Mini Metro came out. I'm going to have a look, see when Mini Metro came out. When did Mini Metro come
More thrilling out? Content of audio people looking.
Just sticking through my notes. Mini Metro came out in 2015.
Right.
So it's not as if it's like done like really well when they've gone dive straight into another one, because conceptually it's the same. Again, I'm not going to turn around and say, well, they could have it's just a reskin, because there's more to it, much more to it. But conceptually it's the same. Visually it's very similar. I mean, Metro looks more like an underground map because it's a Metro game. But I don't know. You know, whether they've just taken their time because they wanted to make the game they wanted, I don't know. But they've not rushed out to make another one based on success by the looks of it. But without speaking to them, I wouldn't know. But I'm glad it exists, because it's absolutely brilliant. Maybe they're creating that you can get a bundle of both Motorways and Metro called the Miniverse bundle. So I do wonder if maybe they will look at I don't know, an air traffic control based one, maybe.
Oh yeah,
or something down the line.
There's all sorts they could do. Yeah. No, that's really, really good. Another one to stick on the another for the wish list, which is growing by the day. And funny again to think about, like when I was a kid, you know, I'd buy a game cartridge for a system, and that would be it for months, because it would cost the equivalent these days of about 70 quid. Whereas now, if I spent 70 quid on stuff that I wanted, I'd have like 12 games and absolutely no time to play any of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, back when I was a kid, Mini Motorways doesn't happen because Mini Metro would never have been any kind of success whatsoever, because it would needed to have been released on a cartridge, a tape, whatever. It wouldn't have had a chance to be a proper success, because people wouldn't have been happy. I mean, I say that back in the Spectrum days, on the Commodore 64 days, where you got your 199 affairs there. Yes, you might have got like that. It might have existed, but in your Sega, Nintendo, NES days, no chance. PlayStation days, I don't think it has a single chance. I think this is like, again, modern gaming only allows this to happen now.
True. I think the closest you'd ever get would be a weird sort of backwater Amiga / Atari ST game that did this kind of thing. So it, you know, it'd be pirated to buggery as well, so it wouldn't get any money from it. But it wouldn't exist except for today.
No. But yeah, absolutely brilliant. Now, I do want to move on to I want to talk about another game. Jesus, but I'm getting this really, really weird crackling sound in my head. I don't know. It's like interference in my head. That's really hurt. I'm going to take a quick break. Nightbook, which is from Wales Interactive, who are most famous for games like The Complex, 5 Dates, Made of Skur, among others as well. They are called sort of the, let's just say, the main FMV guys. And what Nightbook is, you take on the role of like this interpreter, who will do like go to Zoom chats and stuff like that, or Zoom style chats or whatever, and interpret for business people or friends or dates or whatever and things like that. But that's basically her job in it. She interprets for people online. It's for this weird island that's like this French language, but it's a ancient version of this French language, and only she's one of the only people who knows it outside of the people who live on this island. But she ends up doing this translation, and she gets tricked into reading from this ancient scroll or book or whatever it is. So think about how Ash Williams is tricked into reading from the Necronomicon. That kind of thing. So she's tricked into doing that, and the whole game takes place on a computer screen, because it was made during lockdown, so it was all filmed remotely and everything. So it was all done via computer screen. So have you ever seen the films like Unfriended or things like that, where it's all done? Yeah. So it's kind of like that format. So it's all done like that. So she's got this security system, and all the cameras pop up on a computer, all the chats all pop up on the computer. You get to see the notifications, loads of stuff, and it's really, really good. It focuses on the occult. And it's like really, really creepy in places, like really creepy. I felt uneasy at times with the way the story was going.
Wow.
It deals with elements of violence and suicide in there as well, but it's not a game about mental health, so to speak. It's when I first saw that, I went, "Oh, okay, that wall is there. You better be handling this properly," and it does. FMV games can be one of two things to work. It can either be completely hammy, as in Contradiction Spot the Liar, where you're laughing along with it, or it has to nail it and be so spot on serious that it works, like the Sam Barlow games of Her Story and Telling Lies. You try and merge those two, you fail. Thankfully, this is more towards the Her Story side of things. And, again, I don't want to say too much because it will ruin it. And, FMV games are all about the story. The main character's pregnant in the game. Her husband's working away. And, yeah, it's really, really well acted. It stars Julie Dray from Avenue 5. And it really surprised me when he popped up. It stars Colin Salmon as well, who has the best death on film I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, Resident Evil, yeah.
Yes. And he was one time tipped to be James Bond. I remember about a decade or so ago, people was tipping him to be James Bond.
Yeah.
He would have been a great Bond. But anyway, it's a completely live action game. And I absolutely adore it. It flows naturally. The acting's really well done. And I can't recommend it enough. I'm playing it on the Switch, but I believe it's out on it's on PC as well. I'd imagine it's on consoles. Yeah, absolutely wonderful game. I would say 8 Sam Barlows out of 10.
Nice.
On the Barlow scale, it's up there. It's definitely up there.
the scientific Barlow scale. Yeah?
Oh yeah, yes, definitely. It's made on even though it's Wells Interactive, there are budget games, but it uses uses the things that I haven't hold it back during lockdown really, really well. Yeah, superb. I only know it's a couple of sometimes you get an issue with an FMV game where it's coming to a bit where you need to make a decision. And it's usually a black or white decision and stuff like that, which this has. And then sometimes the FMV game takes a while to react to that. And you're like, yep, come on. Okay, that doesn't feel like it's a natural reaction. I noticed maybe twice in this where I just went, oh, they didn't quite sew that together well. But on the whole, it feels like you're watching a film in terms of how naturally each scene progresses into the next based on your decision. And it's branching storyline, so every decision you make has an effect on the game. So I could have, at the start, without ruining the story, I have a choice. Do I want to interpret for a business meeting, or do I want to interpret for a son who's trying to reconnect with his mum? And, you kind of go, one's going to be good for my career, but the other one, I know this kid, I've been working with him to teach him this ancient language, and his mum's on the island and he wants to talk to her. It's less money, but it's personally, it feels good. So I went with that one. But I want to now play through the entire game again and see what it does if I choose the business sense one. What that does to the story, because it's all got to lead into you reading this ancient text, and I want to know how it gets there and stuff like that. But yeah, absolutely wonderful night book.
Very cool. And how far in are you, and how much is left, do you think?
I finished it.
Nice. Are you going to replay it and do different options?
Yeah, well, right, yes, I am. So generally with a game like this, if there's a sliding doors moment early that's clearly two different things, I will play it a second time and just see where that takes me. I generally go with a game like this. If there's not, and it's just my decisions, this is where I got to, I don't. But this is so intriguing, is what happens if I choose the business sense option? What happens there? So I want to play it again from that point. And if it just generally goes bang, 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 and now we're into the same story before, I'll probably leave it, because again, movies, things like that, I'm one and done on the whole. But I'm intrigued enough that I want to go back and play it again, because it's just so good. It is really, really good.
Nice one. I will look into that. I wasn't sold on the idea because I didn't like them when I'm so old that I was there for the first time round with FMV gaming back in the very early 90s, sort of 92. And I kind of, I didn't like it at all, but I really liked her story, even though unfortunately I figured out the mystery pretty much from the moment I started playing it without spoilers. But I'm well up for Nightbook. I'm well up for giving it a go. I think I might check that out, to be honest.
I mean, it's not out until July the 27th. I'm just going to check my notes very quickly. So this is going to sound weird to people, but what we're going to do is we're going to cut this bit and we'll just add it into next week's podcast, because the 27th is the embargo.
Right,
so
fair play.
We will keep this, but we will cut it so I don't get into trouble. So for people who are listening to this now, that was nearly dangerous. It's so good though. It's that good. I nearly broke an embargo for it, folks. So there you go. Wow, that was messed up, Stu. I don't know what happened there. Really, really weird. Anyway, the game,
spooky.
The game I wanted to talk about before that happened was a game called The Ascent, which shows sort of how out the loop I've been a little bit, because I didn't realise this was an eagerly anticipated game. And I kind of casually mentioned it on the forum, and like you guys keep an eye out for this one. I can't say too much because of embargoes. And everyone was like, "Oh yeah, I've been really looking forward to this. I've been really looking forward to this. And is it as good as what I'm expecting?" Like, what? I don't know. I didn't know people realised this was coming. Got review code for this, and it's special. I love it when a special game comes out. It's developed by Neon Games, published by Curve Digital, and Curve Digital generally are, you're expecting something at least decent, but this goes far and beyond. What you've got here is an isometric, cyberpunk-based shooter, like twin-stick shooter RPG that's set in an open world, and it's just superb. Again, I don't want to say too much because I'm a few hours into it. There's story stuff that's very vital, and I don't want to ruin it for anyone. But basically, you've got your normal twin stick shooter movement. So you move with your left stick, you aim with your right stick, and then you've got triggers to shoot with. You can upgrade your weapons. You can collect different weapons. You can upgrade your armor, different abilities you can get which help with things. There's hacking mechanics in there. And like I say, it's very much open world. Enemies are superb. They're not just cannon fodder. Even the ones that are supposed like minion type based stuff or cannon fodder have a sense of intelligence. They rush you at different angles and really make you panic at times. But it starts off, and the one bit I will mention that it starts off with, and you kind of know what you're getting into. It starts off really slowly, no weapon. You have to go, you get a story beat, and then you have to go and do these little mission-based things, which include hacking computers and rebooting a system to help the plant carry on. And then you carry on. Then you get given a weapon, and you're slowly introduced to some of the enemies and some of the other sort of like gameplay mechanics. And it moves you along quite smoothly. And then you get to a bit where you come across your first, let's say, mini boss. And it kicks your ass. And you're like, right, okay, this game's really stepped it up. I get it. And then it just doesn't let go from there on in. It's paced. It's not too frenetic all the way. It's paced absolutely sublimely. And for the first time, I've played a game as well whereby I understand fully ray tracing, because I played this with ray tracing on and I played this with ray tracing off, and the cyberpunk aesthetic with the neons and the lighting systems that it's there. Oh my sweet Jesus. It is beautiful. It is one of the most beautiful looking games I think I've ever seen. Honestly, I can't say enough about how wonderful this looks. And yeah, again, it's got survival based stuff in it, and the RPG elements are, again, I suppose almost like you'd expect in a roguelike, almost some of the RPG elements, but it's not a roguelike at all. I've only played this solo. I've not played it co-op, and I don't know how much different it is. but it's got this really interesting mechanic. And again, sorry, I know I'm gibbering on a bit here.
It's all right. I'll cut it all out. Don't worry.
It's got this really interesting aiming mechanic where you aim at a level with just normal. So you're moving your right stick around and you're aiming and you shoot. But because there's a little bit of verticality or different sized enemies, you hold the left trigger. And instead of that just being something else, it aims higher. So you can shoot above small enemies or over small obstacles and get enemies that are hiding or taller enemies whilst avoiding the bigger, like the smaller enemies. So you can change your focus that way. And it's only a really sort of like minor mechanic, but it adds something to the twin stick nature of the game that I've never really seen before.
Yeah.
And that throws in with like there's tactical grenades and gadgets and crap like that, and there's cover stuff, destructible environments, all that's in there as well. Character customization. I'm playing as a woman with cyan hair because it looks cool. And it's really interesting characters. First character you meet is this big sort of like Mass Effect, the alien type looking Gorgon thing with a Sheffield accent. I was like, I'm sold. I'm sold. 10 out of 10.
Nice.
But the thing I really, really, really want to mention, accessibility options. Again, absolutely superb from these guys. You've got different color palettes you can use to help with different color blindness, different levels of vision. So I was able to flick through them and find one that I felt comfortable playing in. You can choose the color of the subtitle text. You can choose the size of text. You can choose the background of subtitles, the opacity of the background, and many, many, many other little subtle accessibility options, all there in the setup. Yeah, every game should do this. No excuse. Absolutely superb. The Ascent is absolutely outstanding. I don't want to say too much because you need to experience it, but this is I believe this is sort of like some veteran, like some like old school developers from bigger studios have got together to create Neon Giant, and these are definitely a team who know what they're doing. And yeah, we are talking potential Game of the Year stuff here. We really, really are.
Excellent. No, I've been keeping my eye on this for a little while, as I think a lot of people will, because it's coming to Game Pass. So it's going to get played to absolute death, which is great. You know, there's going to be tons of people out there getting to experience it. So as it's as good, as good as you say, that's fantastic. And yeah,
you can't, I mean, I've seen people trying to compare, say, oh, how does it compare to Hades? You can't compare the two games. They're different. The fact is they're isometric, and that's about it. That's all you've got. I loved Hades. I think it was one of the games of last year. Still behind a Tetris for me because it's Tetris, and Tetris is the de facto winner of Game of the Year.
Well, of course.
For me, so far, I prefer this to Hades.
Wow.
Ever so slightly.
Yeah.
Ever so slightly, but I prefer it to Hades. So, do you remember a few weeks ago I spoke about Beautiful Desolation?
I do indeed.
And how much I really enjoyed that, the story and the way that worked. I think if I'd have played this before Beautiful Desolation, I don't think I'd have enjoyed Beautiful Desolation as much. Because this just takes it, steps it up to sort of like even Spinal Tap are going, what? We need to put a 12 on this. Honestly, it is special. It is a special, special game. And again, I sort of like, I'm almost lost for words in trying to describe the game because I don't think anything I can say can do it justice.
Blimey.
All I can say is it's on Game Pass. If you've got access to an Xbox, if you've got access to a PC, sign up for Game Pass just to test it. But I tell you what, if you've only want to play it on Steam, then the 20, 25 quid that it'll cost you, you're not going to go wrong. If you have any takeaway from this week's podcast on the gaming side, for less than the cost of a AAA title, you can get Chernobylite, you can get the Ascent, add in a bit of mini Motorways, and you could have tons of some great gaming fun.
Marvellous. Yeah, so we'll have to play this in co-op when it comes out.
Yes.
Yep.
We might even do a stream. Once my eyes are better, we'll do a stream, co-op stream.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah.
But that's the best of gaming. It's an unfortunate segue because we've now got to talk about the absolute worst.
Yeah, that's kind of where it sounds like it's going.
Yeah. So I really don't know what to say about the Activision. So, well, I do. I'm angry about Activision Blizzard. Purely from the sense of not that this stuff has happened, because that's scummy enough, but by the fact that they could have got ahead of this, Activision, when they saw what happened to Ubisoft, they could have got ahead of it. But because many of the major publications and sites swept it under the carpet a bit because they didn't want to lose access to their review copies and their chummy deals and everything like that, you could almost sense that the executives at Activision Blizzard looked at it and went, okay, we'll be able to get away with this. We'll deal with it. You know, if anything comes up, then we can just, ride it for a few days and that'll be that. And that's angered me. They could have got ahead of this and gone, okay, based on what's happened at Ubisoft, we are aware this kind of behavior has happened within our own company. We are admitting it now and we are going to do stuff about it. Instead, they've barely made comment. They've denied it. They're going to fight it. And they're throwing people under the bus. They're basically called their staff liars. And it's absolutely disgusting. You go from the absolute worst where one person on I believe like a retreat or whatever it was being abused and took their own lives on the back of that. That is just horrible, horrible, horrible. And then, but even the low-level stuff in a way of women and minorities being passed over for promotion is sickening. I read a tweet earlier today that said, one particular female staffer was told that she won't ever get a promotion within the company because that was a position they've designed for a male hire. What is that all about? They've admitted, or it's come out that they won't promote women in case they get pregnant. I just, what is going on with this industry, Stu?
Well, it's just a microcosm of all of this big business stuff, isn't it? And what I feel it seems as though is that it slips sideways into it because it's because games and game creation is a partly artistic endeavour. There's a way in for bad behaviour because I think there are fewer controls over how a business is run when it's broadly artistic. So stuff about like who you can hire in a role and how long you can work and all of that sort of stuff in the arts is quite different from in regular business. Now I'm no expert on US law and the way that they conduct themselves, but I know that it would be far harder in the European Union to get away with some of the stuff just on a hiring basis than they've been getting away with. But even so, on just a human level, it's absolutely disgusting. And until they kind of had a root and branch, I don't know, ripping out of all the people who are perpetrating this stuff, I wouldn't buy one of their games. I mean, I know I don't really buy their games anyway, they're not for me, but I wouldn't anyway, and I would definitely steer people away from buying them because the only thing that we can do is signal boost the people who've suffered because of this and to hit them where hit the companies where they hurt, which is by the wallets. The only power we have as consumers is to not spend money that they will receive.
Yeah, and it's with it. I mean, I've made the pledge that myself, I will not cover Activision or Ubisoft games until satisfactorily, as companies, they have done what they need to do. Even then, I doubt I'm that bothered about it anyway. Again, because of my mission statement with this site. Anyone else that wants to cover their games, I will not stop them. I might, preface any articles or any promotional style reviews or coverage of their games with the caveat that these companies have done what they've done and it still has not been sorted. But I've made the pledge that I will not be covering them again for promotional ways. And one thing to say as well, I know this isn't just AAA games that this happens in. It's a industry-wide thing. It's a business-wide thing. It happens in sort of like most industries. It does happen at the indie level. The difference being with the indie level, I don't think it gets hidden as easily. And it's very easy to say, oh, right, well, this guy's utter scum. So I'm not going to reward him or this little small team with buying their game because that is scummy behaviour that you can punish them directly. And the argument and the thing you have to deal with when it comes to your Activisions and your Ubisofts is who are you punishing? You are, when you don't buy their games, trust me, if enough people done it, you are not punishing the developers at the ground level. You are punishing the CEOs because if they're not continually making more money than they did the year before, it affects them. They start then losing jobs. They start having to answer to different people, and it does affect them. So if you have, honestly, I think if you've got any kind of moral stance on this, don't feel ashamed that you're not supporting the developers. You are actively showing support to those developers by not supporting the billionaire CEOs who have been allowing this to happen and the executives that have been perpetrating this for God knows how many years.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the only way that the change can be affected. So yeah, like you say, if they're punished and they don't receive their money and their bonuses, and the studio still exists, what they'll have to do is change and get better. And that will mean that the people can be employed, and the people who are employed will be more happy. Now, that's not to say that there isn't going to be fallout and that people aren't going to lose their jobs if you stop paying. And unfortunately, that's because of the way things are set up. It's set up to fail. It's like the classic sort of railway dilemma, isn't it? Of like, do you divert the train to save, the life of somebody you love, and it will kill people but a larger number of people that you have no connection to, that sort of thing. You can't avoid it, unfortunately. But at least you'll know that you're giving them you're trying to build a future or help towards a future that will allow these people, these artists and these designers and everything, to be part of an industry that they can be proud of and that they can work in without persecution or without any kind of malice and poor treatment. So yes, in the short term it might cause some issues, but you've got to think about the longer term as well.
100%. And you often hear the argument when it comes to AAA studios, and this isn't to dump on developers who make AAA games, because I get their passion, what they want to make, and the technical ability that goes into those games. And you look at a Call of Duty or an Assassin's Creed, and they are clearly beautiful looking games. They're made with love on the development level, and it's just when the executives top ends come in, go, right, how can we make more money from this? But the fallout immediately might not be great. However, the developers who want to make games, who have these ideas, they want to make good games, if they are then unshackled from corporations, like mega corporations, like your Activisions, your Ubisofts, your EAs. We've spoken today of two specific games, in Chernobyl and the Ascent, of what they can do when they're not shackled. Even Mini Motorways, for example, we don't know if that's been in development for 5 years. I can't imagine that if, one of those major companies was behind the development team doing Mini Motorways, whether they'd be allowed 5 years to make that game, or whether they'd need to chuck it out a year later, in which case it wouldn't be the game that they wanted to make. So I think long term, we would see people shifting more towards your Devolver Digitals, your Team 17s, that level of publisher or games house, and others going independent with less focus on just making money. Don't get me wrong, I get that people need to make money to survive and to live. But what we're seeing is, honestly, AAA games are being made to line the pockets of billionaires as it is. There's no demand. I honestly believe there's no demand for making games cost millions and millions and millions of pounds to make. I believe that was something that was created by corporations to tell us that's what we want. We want more and more realistic graphics. We want sort of like bigger and more open, expansive worlds that are beyond anything we can imagine. When you look back at the games of the year over the last decade, you actually look at them. I think the ones that have got more passion about them or live longer are definitely the smaller games, like your Hades and your things like that. So I think we'd actually start seeing a better collection of games in the long run as well, or people seeing the better games that are there, not just hidden by the 4 or 5 over the top multi-million pound efforts that are designed to bleed more money from us. And, that's just from the economic side of the scum that these guys are getting up to. Let alone the abuse they're putting their staff through, not just sexual, but the constant long hours. And you often hear people, if you don't want to do it, don't work there. That's not how life works.
No.
It so much hinges on this legal battle now between the state of California and Activision Blizzard as to what happens moving forward. And I've got a feeling Activision have got enough money and enough clout. I don't think much happens, and that's sad.
It is, but let's hope that something else good comes out of it. I think we might be reaching a tipping point where unionisation comes back in to a degree. I wonder how long and how sustainable it is that we're in a non-unionised sort of society, because people seem to really be having enough of it now. And it's kind of, being able to see behind the curtain, or see inside the sausage factory, whichever analogy you want to use, that particularly with younger people coming into a market where they can barely get a job, and when they do it's massively underpaid and understaffed, that they will be thinking, well, there's got to be something better, there's got to be a better way of doing this. And I just, as usual, I sort of have a hope for the future that people will realise there's a better way, and that it will change from there.
No, I do. And I mean, you mentioned like inside the sausage factory, it comes to something where you look at it and go, do you know what? The animals in the slaughterhouse are probably treated better than the people who work for Ubisoft, Activision, and CD Projekt Red. It's just the way it is. And I've been asked before, why do I champion indie games so much? Why have I got such a thing about AAA games and a dislike for them? That's why. I know indie games aren't perfect. I know there's scum behind some indie games and things like that, but it's a much smaller level, and you can actively choose to not support the individual. But the AAA system, if I never play a single one again, doesn't bother me one iota.
Yeah, gotta hope things change. We really do.
Yes, definitely. But I need to end it on a positive. And I don't think that we can find positive in that. So, in terms of myself, I am due, as you are listening to this, I would have had my second operation on my other eye, and hopefully I'll get some vision back on that. My vision's slowly improving in my right eye again after a recent bleed. So you may see this as a positive. I don't know. You might recoil in horror. But I'm hoping to get back into doing some streaming and some more video content, definitely some more writing, because I'll be able to sit at the computer a bit longer. Whereas recently it's been more of a case of playing these games and then having to make written notes for the podcast, because I don't need to look at the screen for the podcast. So I can balance gaming more. And I did discover as well that, taking breaks every half hour to an hour is definitely a good thing for your eyes. But yeah, I'll hopefully be able to get back into streaming. And we are, again, if you do listen to this, we are looking for additional hosts for marginalized communities, whether that's women, whether you're in the LGBTQIA plus area. We are after some additional hosts, whether it's a rotating chair or not. If you are interested, drop me a DM via Twitter at mentalhealthga2. or podcast@mentalhealthgaming.com if you are interested. But yeah, no, lots of positives on the horizon. So yeah, that's hopefully something a bit more positive from me.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's really cool. And positive from me is that I've now got a job. So as people may know, I started another job. I alluded to not getting on with it very well. So I was only in it for a few months. And at the end of the probationary period, we decided together, me and the employer, that it wasn't working out. So I've been unemployed for a huge grand total of about 10 days, and now I've got another job. So I'm really, really chuffed about that, and it seems like a really good place to work. So that's very positive as well. So yeah. But in terms of starts and finishes, this is the finish of the podcast. God, terrible.
What's those little balls multiplying behind you, Stu?
What are they?
I don't know. They're multiplying.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know.
Oh, you've ruined the bit, Stu.
Oh, I don't know. I'm lost. Help.
Gremlins.
Oh God! Right. Yeah, the little furry buggers. Yeah.
I'm not even going to do a retake. We can keep this in because that's how in sync we are.
Yeah, no, I totally forgot about that. That feels like years ago now. But yeah, on that note, before I get swamped by toothy creatures, have a great week, everybody. And if you like our content, follow us on YouTube, all the other socials, especially Twitter. If you want to contribute, you can pay on Patreon for us, or you can pay a one-off with coffee. And apart from that, just enjoy your gaming. Have a great week. Stay safe and stay sane.